Hi, so we're going to go take a tour through the Wildlife Center. So come with me and we'll walk through it. So this room here is our receiving room. We've got a couple incubators set up for really critical patients when they first come in. That way they can get warmed up and hydrated before an exam, before we do any treatments and everything like that, and we can check them out. And then we're going to come into our intake room right here. So this is our exam room or our admission room. There's a lot of different things here that kind of make it so that when we have an animal that comes in the first place, we kind of have everything ready nearby that we can kind of grab and check them out. So we've got everything from an anesthesia machine here, all kinds of wound management supplies, disinfectants for cleaning off the table afterward. We've got a nice warm heating pad here for any cold hypothermic patients that come in. Exam forms for every patient that comes in. We'll fill out a full exam and do a full thorough exam with them. And then we've got a station over, We've got a station over here for doing weights. When an animal comes in, the first thing that we're going to do is check its weight, check its general condition, and see if it's stable enough to get an exam or if it needs to be backed up a little bit and get hydrated first. And then coming over here, we've got all kinds of different disinfecting equipment for all of our syringes and medical supplies over here. We've got an autoclave right here for any surgeries so we can sterilely clean off all of our surgical equipment afterwards. We've got a little lab setup here with a centrifuge, microscope, different supplies so we can do diagnostic tests and everything for them. And then, showing different areas, we've got stuff for compounding and making drugs. And then, of course, a large medicine cabinet, all kinds of different antibiotics, pain management supplies, antiparasitic drugs, vitamins, supplements, etc. There's a lot of different injuries and issues that wildlife face, so we kind of have to have everything ready to go and be prepared for anything from rat poison ingestion to lead poisoning to cat-caught birds and wound management and things like that as well. We've also got a little medication refrigerator down here, a whole host of sterile syringes, a whole bunch of feeding syringes, and then over here we've got all of our different feeding equipment. So anything from hummingbird syringes to squirrel nipples and feeding tubes. And we've got our oxygen, which supplies our anesthesia machine. So now we're going to go out and check out the other areas. So we'll start right here. This is kind of a whiteboard that explains all the different patients that are in care, where they're located, what their identification number is if they're in a single cage by themselves. And then we also have spots for next steps in the treatment plan, so we can kind of describe what is happening next with the patient, so we can stay up on their treatments and everything like that and plan ahead for that. And we've got a lot of different diet information, including different schedules for tube feeding throughout the day, which may happen every 90 minutes, every hour and a half. And we also have our timers for the baby birds. Some of them are fed as early as 30 or 20 minutes throughout the whole day, about 12 hours a day for the tiny little birds that we have up there. And then we're going to go this way. This is kind of all of our different caging on one side of the building. So these are just different hospital cages for birds or patients that need to be monitored and closely kind of kept isolated. And then we've also got different floor cages, so we'll take a look over here. Cages are meant for bigger animals, so maybe a goose or a bald eagle or something like that. That's a really large animal that needs a lot more space than a cage would provide. We also have pelicans, brown pelicans, white pelicans that come in through here. This cage setup, if you want to see, this is set up for an evening grosbeak that we have. So he's not quite at the point where he's ready to go outside to a full aviary, so he's got this kind of like transition type of aviary for him. So he's in there somewhere. I don't know if And then, very good timing. We have a timer that just went off for the baby bird, so if you want, we'll come and feed the Steller's jay that we have here. So the Steller's jay here, you'll see that all the intake information is right here so that everybody can kind of know what's going on with the case, what's going on with the patient, what has been done, including like medications and fluids and things like that. And then we're going to go in and feed, so you might need to get your camera really close to the screen to feed. So this guy is eating all kinds of different things from mealworms to waxworms to crickets. even eating tiny little pieces of mice, just like their parents would bring them out in the wild. And he's what we call fledgling, so he's right at the point where he's jumping out of the nest and they're down on the ground, and they're really kind of in the situation where they might be vulnerable. But oftentimes as a fledgling, they're totally okay if the parents are still coming and feeding them. Unfortunately, this guy got caught by a cat, and he's got no major wounds. He's got a little bit of feather damage that the cat pulled out, but overall he's in pretty good health, which you can tell by his demeanor. Doesn't want to finish that last one. Got some more cages over here. We've got 3 different barred owls in these cages. You can hear one of them screaming right now because it's almost their dinner time. Our kitchen, nice and big. It's got a big prep table set up for thawing fish. We're going to get a ton of different seabirds in at once. All kinds of different equipment over there for feeding ducklings, to feeding raptors, to feeding owls. And then we've got all kinds of different food over here. And this is kind of just a little bit of it. We've got a lot of stuff in our freezer and the garage as well. So when we raise little baby animals, we need a lot of different supplements. We need a lot of particular diets that only certain birds will eat, only certain mammals will eat. And we just need to make sure that we're providing everything that would be provided in nature, but then we're also making sure that they're in good nutrition. So we have a lot of different vitamins, supplements, and things like that that we kind of add so that they have the best nutrition possible while they're here in care. All right, and then we'll show you the laundry room. Right here, this is our laundry room in here. Typically, we've got volunteers in here all day long doing multiple loads of laundry. And then we've also got a sink in here for cleaning off like furnishings like raptor perches and things like that. We've got a extra pool in here just in case we get into the situation where we have an overload of animals and need to use multiple rooms. And pretty much the laundry is always going here but never done. And here we've got, this is set up, we previously had this as our ICU area, but we're going to be switching and transitioning this into the baby bird nursery. So you'll see right now we've got different timers listed up on the board for birds that are on 30-minute timers, 45-minute timers, 1 hour, 2 hour, and then some birds that are self-feeding. So they don't need to be hand-fed or bothered throughout the day. And we've also got a lot of different information on exactly what birds get hand-fed when they are being hand-fed. All of our songbirds are on an insect-only diet with the exception of finches. And we make sure that we provide them lots of supplements as well, so they're getting enough calcium, enough everything that they would be getting from the supplements that they wouldn't be getting in the wild unless we provided it here. So you can kind of see, one, we've got a beautiful backdrop here. There's always deer out here towards the end of the day and in the morning. We've got a lot of different wild animals that kind of love this spot here. There's a robin that was out getting worms earlier this morning, so it's really nice to come outside and kind of be in nature and see all the different animals out kind of thriving in the area. And then to go to our different aviaries and care for the birds and the mammals that are inside those aviaries as well. So we'll go this way, we'll take a look at all the ducklings that we've got out in this one aviary. So in this aviary we're just going to kind of walk in the front part of it. We've got 4 different duck boxes here, and those hold anywhere from 6 to 12 ducks in them, ducklings of course. And then we've got some of them that are loose here in the aviary, which we kind of call general population, meaning that they're using the aviary itself, using the pools and all that. And then what we have over here is a little separate area for a large group of birds that are kind of transitioned between the duck boxes and the aviary itself. So you've got 16 mallards that are all kind of grouped up there, hanging out in a big group together, and they kind of migrate like a big group as they're this young. But they've got all kinds of things in there, from food to pools to swim in, and different, stuff in there that keeps them busy. So some foliage and things like that for them to look at. And there's one goose in there with the rest of the ducks. He didn't really fit in with the rest of the geese. He's a little too young, so he's in with them for a while. And we'll walk by another couple aviaries, see our pools, and then we can go out to the other different ones. So in Aviary 2, we're currently housing a group of mallards. I believe there's about 8 mallards out there and 3 Canada geese. Typically, we don't mix those species together, but this group tends to be really well together. So we've got a separate group of mallards and a separate group of geese, but they all kind of interact well and they're not picking on each other like ducklings tend to do. So, you want to take a peek inside?
Sure do.
So you've got 3 geese. You can tell they're separate but amicable. So we've got the 3 Canada goslings out here. One of them has a really bad foot injury, so came in with a damaged toe, some damaged webbing, and just moved outside yesterday. So he's really happy to join the rest of the group today after being isolated for about a week or so while that wound healed up. We've got the group of 8 ducklings over there. They're close to release right now, but they still need another week to 2 weeks before they're ready to go. So we'll hold them in here for a little bit as they get older, and then we'll bring them out to release in a couple weeks. Got a host of different aviaries over here. Aviary number 4 is kind of a multi-purpose aviary, so we've got a deep bin for any type of rodents like mink or anything like that would be in there, or squirrels or anything. And then we've got a pool in there, and we've also got kind of a general space if needed. And then in Aviary 3 here, we have a Brant goose. So if you want to walk up, you can see him. And this goose is actually pretty healthy, but he's going through a molt. He has some really damaged feathers. And when he came in, he was really sick, really emaciated. And so we're holding him onto him until he kind of finishes molting and has better feather quality. And then as soon as he does have better feather quality, then he can go back out to the wild again. He'll have the best chance of survival that way. In this aviary here, we've got 4 different pools that are set up. And these pools are typically, these are like conditioning pools, so these are typically for diving seabirds. So we'll have everything from common murres to northern fulmars, loons will be out here as well. And these pools are specifically built for birds that need to have impeccable waterproofing. So they need to be able to be in cold water and not be able to drop their body temperature after healing from wounds or any infections or illnesses. And we need to make sure that the water always stays clean because water quality and food presentation is really important. All right, so we're going to see the second half of the aviaries outside. Coming up to Aviary 8 over here, this is where we have really large birds like pelicans in, or eagles that are in, because they need really large flight space to be able to recover from like wing injuries or fractures or anything like that. So when we have the birds that come out here, oftentimes they need to be able to have a large space to fly. So we have a 150-foot long aviary here for any type of birds that are overcoming structural damage like fractures or anything like that, and make sure that they have the physical therapy that they need before they go out to the wild and have to kind of cut it from there. So you'll see in here, the aviary is nice and large, 150 feet long. Eagles, pelicans, all kinds of animals out here, or any animal that really needs extensive physical therapy before release. All right, so we've got another aviary right behind it. It's pretty much the same. It's a 100-foot aviary, kind of our backup aviary when we have a bunch of patients in here or patients that don't get along and can't share the aviary together. Coming down. So this is a songbird aviary that we have right here. This is a large songbird aviary for anything like swallows that are pre-release where they need to be eating from the forceps still while they're flying, or jays or crows or ravens or anything like that that need a larger flight space. And then last but not least, we have over here, these are 2 aviaries for songbirds, so it's kind of split down the middle. So you'll see this nice big live tree that's in the middle of the aviary. So it's really nice natural foliage for them. Oftentimes they'll be picking bugs off the trees and things like that, like we want them to. And then we have a covered section so we can put their food so it doesn't get rained on. Obviously it's a pretty rainy day today and almost every day out here. So we need to make sure that they have a cover spot to go if they need to be dry and out of the elements as well. Well, thanks a lot.